Representative Paré.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here, Superintendent Truitt, and answering our questions. Sort of a follow-up on Representative Torbett's question about information you get back from LEAs on how they did spend the money that was spent. Is there a way that we can put a value to that? I mean, I know that in ESSER 2, when that funding wasn't required to be used for learning loss, but was used for other reasons, some of those salaries, bonuses, and then other, as we heard in the earlier presentation, how can we understand the dollars to the value of those other uses, and can you explain that a little bit?
Yeah. Well, we have a proposed ROI study that will help us determine that. But I will tell you that the feds have, the Department of Education has made it very clear that anything that a district can tie to COVID recovery is allowable. And so while we do, Representative Torbitt, have the ability to call out a district for not following their plan, we don't have the authority to say, we think that you should spend this money on this, not that. Well, we can say that, but we can't require them to do so.
Can you ask of them to produce results and what that money was spent on, and
that's why I created the office.
Yeah. Another follow-up on the summer learning program. If you had to go back before that launched and set outcome metrics or expectations in a measurable way prior to it beginning, I know we didn't have those, but what would they be? And can you do that with the population of children, varied population that you have in schools taking advantage of that program?
Yeah, we do have outcome metrics, and you're going to present about that. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. I would like to wrap up this.
Maintenance effort. Yeah. You also mentioned with the summer program, and that you had some measurable performance outcomes set. What were they for 12?
Yeah, so it's about 60% of students, 58% of students showed growth on their pre-post assessment for reading and math. Mm-hmm. So that was the primary assessment measure for K-6 students as dictated in the law. For high school students, the measure that was expected was credits earned, and we captured that, and it was just over 12,000 credits earned. And then additionally, there were promotion and retention rates, and those are listed in the report as well, and they are in the 90% students who participated in the program were promoted at about a 92% rate.
So we did pretty well on those measurable performance metrics.
So I think one of the things about this summer learning program, and I tried to be really clear as I talked about what this program was. It was not a research study. It wasn't built as a research study. And so that presents its own challenge when you try to draw very clear, distinct conclusions about results. We talked a lot about this program after a year of disrupted learning for students. This was an opportunity to re-engage children with their peers and with teachers in a face-to-face environment. And overall, I think that is a huge success. The fact that 250,000 children, nearly 250,000 children, attended at least some portion of that summer program, to me, is a success. The fact that 60% showed growth, I think that's great. You know, the challenge, of course, is when you look at the research around summer learning programs, the data will tell you it has to be a 6-week intentional reading and math. It has to have enrichment, food, transportation. We tried to do all those things. We tried to do that on a statewide level. No one's ever done that before. All of the research around summer learning is about these smaller district-based programs for targeted students. Right? We prioritized at-risk students, but it was, remember, voluntary, and essentially we had districts who opened it to every student in their district. When we looked at the initial pretest data, if you look at that data and then say, well, and we calculated it as the quote-unquote on-grade level being above the 50th percentile, 86% of the students who participated, who took a pretest, were not on grade level. So what we asked districts to do was to identify at-risk students, When we looked at the data that they submitted back to us, they said 86% of those children were at risk. The pre-test data shows us that about 86% of those kids were below grade level. I think districts did a really good job of identifying. And then we gave parents the opportunity to attend, to put their children in these programs. I can remember they were 6 weeks. Not every kid attended all 6 weeks. Some kids went on vacation. Some parents chose only to send them for 3 weeks. Some kids got COVID and missed, right? So all in all, on a statewide scale, I don't know of another state that's done something on that scale. In terms of what do we do in the future, we built out 2 programs for next summer that we would like to test again based on what we learned from this past summer. We also know we don't have money, OLR does not have money for summer 2023. If we would like a summer learning program, $200 per child per week. That's what it cost.
Do you have any information on any identified at-risk children who weren't served in a summer learning program because of an inability to get enough teachers?
That I don't. That unfortunately I don't. What we did find though in the survey responses from the districts was by and large they were able to recruit enough staff with some exceptions.
You mentioned that OLR has a 5-year plan to get students back on track. So the ESSER and ARPA funding expires in 2024. So take me down
Sure.
to the future.
So part of what we're trying to do, and the piece that I neglected to show also is, I know there was a question about other states and how we fare against other states. And just so you're aware, we actually are working with a network of states across this country. We're part of the CCSSO network, Learning Recovery Network, 17 states across the country. I'm the lead on that one for our state. We're working with the Ed Commission of the States, which is another national group. We're working with the with Unfinished Learning Group out of U.S. Department of Ed. So we are benchmarking against other states. We're learning best practices from other states. But how do we get to where we want to be 5 years from now? So part of that is this idea around building out a model of continuous improvement. We launch programs, we evaluate those programs, and then we turn around and decide after the evaluation what the next phase is. So summer learning, 2021. Summer 2022, we will launch Career Accelerator, which is going to look at workforce credentialing for students in grades 6-12, in addition to our Bridge Academy program, which serves students at critical junctures in their education who are also at risk. That's what we have enough funding to cover. What I hope will happen is summer 2023, we'll make a recommendation, and perhaps there'll be some funding for summer learning 2023 that we will build based on what we learned from this coming summer and the previous summer. So we have now this established model for how to build summer learning, which we didn't have in North Carolina before last summer, right? Every year before that, it was every district running their own model of summer learning. Additionally, you've got 30-some appropriations that have been made, a variety of programs. We're going to test all of those programs. If they work, we will come back to you and say, this one works, here's the data, we think this is a good investment, here are the students that it should target. If it doesn't work, we will say, here's the data, we don't find that this has a significant impact on student performance, it's probably not one we want to continue. As you've heard the superintendent talk about Operation Polaris, it's a big part of the work. Accountability reform is a huge piece of what we have to do, transitioning away from this idea that one test score is the measure to a multi-measure approach, so that we can in fact then identify these pockets of excellence. And it should include things like workforce credentialing. That's a huge part of what we do in North Carolina, but that's not part of our accountability system. So all of it is, it's about the model and building out the model.
Thank you. One last question. Your accountability model. I've heard you say, Superintendent Truitt, in the past, that there's some perhaps wide latitude that some teachers have in the classroom. So is the existing accountability structure all the way down to the classroom level acceptable to you? Or what do you think improvements need to be made going forward to improve that accountability model all the way down to the classroom level?
It's not acceptable to me, and this is one of the reasons why I want to build out a competency-based model of education, beginning with math. And so I think that what education reformers have been saying for years is that one and done high stakes testing like our EOGs and EOCs don't serve students. They don't tell parents anything. When you open, as a parent, I open my child's EOC or EOG scores and I don't know anything except for that it tells me what level they are. And it doesn't help teachers because the scores come out a month into the summer. And so our accountability model is actually called testing and accountability. And I think that what we need to do is reframe our standards, or not reframe. We need to add to our standards the competencies that define a standard, which we don't really have, so that a teacher can individualize instruction and to avoid learning gaps. And then the assessments that we give need to, first of all, we need more. I mean, we have this pilot program with NC check-ins, et cetera, where some districts are able to assess 4 times a year instead of one giant test at the end. So I think that's a great start. And that way teachers have formative assessment data so that they can alter instruction if needed. But at the end of the day, they're still trying to meet the individual needs of 27 children.
Members and